What's up everybody, I'm Jaspreet Singh and the face of America is changing. First, people started working from home. And then when people started working from home, they said, why do I need to pay rent in an expensive city when I can just move out to the suburbs? So then people started moving out to the suburbs and then they said, why do I need to be in a state where I have to pay such high state income taxes when I can move to a different state and keep more of my money? This has led to a big shift and migration with people moving out of the high tax states into the low tax states while working from, well, home. Florida is one of those states that's seen a lot of people move in. And when I was in Boca, I was staying there for a little while doing some work out there and I was in the gym and a guy came up to me asking me where something was in the gym and I said, I don't know, this is my first week here. And he said, oh, same, I just moved here yesterday from Florida. He works at a bank in New York, but he lives in Florida now. And the reason why he now lives and works in Florida while his company is still in New York is because taxes. He said that he was paying extremely high taxes in New York and he was paying all this money in rent, and now he just bought a place in Boca. I think he paid like $1 million or so for his home, and he said that it was cheap compared to what he was paying in New York, and now he has a much bigger home, he has lower taxes, and he can work from his home now in Florida while keeping more of his money. Back just a few years ago, if you were looking for a job, the number one thing that employees were looking for was income. They wanted to see how much money they could make, and if you could find a job making more money somewhere else, you were likely to move because you wanted to make more money at your job. Now, as a byproduct of this pandemic, people look for two things. You look for your income, but you're also looking for the quality of life. How many hours a week do you have to be at the office? How many hours do you have to be logged in at work? What are you doing? These are questions that people are asking now, and people are willing to take a pay cut if they don't have to go into the office, because that means you can have a better quality of life. Because now you can pick your hours, you can work from wherever you want, and you can do your life the way you want to do it. And this is starting to trigger a new shift, because if you're able to work from home, the next question is, well, where is my home? If your company is paying you, say, $100,000 a year and you can work from home, the amount of money you get to keep in your pocket is going to change depending on where you live. And I'm not just talking about the cost of where you're living, I'm talking about how much money you get to keep after taxes, because $100,000 of income when you live in Los Angeles is different than $100,000 of income if you live in Miami, Florida. Let's just run through a couple numbers. If you make $50,000 a year and you live in LA, California, well, after taxes, you're not going to be left with $50,000. After taxes, you'll be left with $40,400. This is after your federal taxes, your state taxes, your FICA taxes. But if you made that same money in Miami, now you would be left with $41,800. So a little bit of a difference, but nothing too significant. We're talking about an extra $1,400 or so in your pocket. But if you're making more money, that's where you start to see a bigger effect, because if you make $100,000 a year here in LA, well then after taxes, you will be left with $71,400. But if you made that same $100,000 in Miami, then you would be left with $77,000. Now you start to see a little bit of a difference, because now you have an extra $6,000-$7,000 in your pocket because you made your money here instead of here. And if you're a really high income earner and you made $1 million and you live in LA, well now you'd be left with $533,000. But if you made the same $1 million in Miami, you'd be left with $640,000. More than $100,000 in your pocket just because of where you earned this money. This is a big reason why you've been seeing so many people, especially over the last couple of years, move from high tax areas to low tax areas, especially if you have the ability to work from home. Because if you were living in California and now you have the ability to still earn the same amount of money, but you can work from home, well, then you can just relocate and keep more money in your pocket while earning the same income because, well, you're working from home. Now, some companies have stipulations that you're required to work in a specific state, or you're required to work within a specific proximity to your office, but a lot of companies don't. And so now you have the ability, if you're working from home, to decide which state taxes that you want to pay. If you look at this chart showing the population changes in 2021, you see that the states with people leaving are California, New York, and Illinois, which are all very high tax states, and they were moving to Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Florida, states with either low or no state income taxes. So I took the top 10 states where people are moving out of and I put them here. You have New York, Washington, D.C., Illinois, California, Louisiana, Massachusetts, West Virginia, North Dakota, Mississippi, and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, and I took the top 10 states where people are moving into, and I put them here. You have Idaho, Utah, Montana, Arizona, South Carolina, Delaware, Texas, Nevada, Florida, and North Carolina. Now what I did is I went into a different chart and I ranked each one of these as a high tax state or a low tax state. And the way that I defined a high tax state is really just by ranking. Are you one of the top half states in the country in terms of taxes, or are you one of the bottom half states when it comes to taxes? So let me write them down here. Here's what I put together. Out of the top 10 states where people are moving out of, 5 of them are high tax states and 5 of them are low tax states. So you kind of have an even distribution here where people are moving out of, but the interesting thing is here, where are people moving into? And here you have 8 out of the 10 states where people are moving into as low tax states, and only 2 of them are high tax states. And 3 of these right here with the star are states with 0 income taxes. So Florida, Nevada, and Texas, all of them charge $0 in state income taxes, and they've been very popular places for people to move into. So you have people moving out of high tax areas like New York and Illinois and California, in addition to some low tax areas, and they're moving in primarily to low tax areas and some no tax areas. Now before you go and just move to a lower tax state, I should warn you that some states do have restrictions on you moving to another state just for lower taxes. So if you're earning money in a high tax state and you move into a low tax state, some states are going to restrict you. So make sure you talk to a tax professional before you do that. One thing that I want to point out before we go any further is that just because a state has a low or no state income tax doesn't mean that it doesn't get any taxes anywhere else. Sometimes these states will have higher property taxes, higher sales taxes, or higher excise taxes. So they might try to get these taxes from somewhere else. What I'm focusing on here is just the state income taxes, meaning that you make $100,000 or $50,000 or $1 million and you're living in this state. How much money is the state going to take from you based off of the income that you generate? Now, this trend probably isn't going to be slowing down anytime soon. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we've seen the population in California actually start to decline, because people now have the ability to choose where they want to work from. And when you choose where you want to work from, you're going to look at places like, where are good schools? Where's a good quality of life? Where do I like the weather? And then where am I going to make more money? Because some states are going to charge you more money just for living there than other states. Now, obviously, you can get a nice quality of life in certain places. Like California is known for its quality of life, because when you're in California, you're in California. There's nothing like California. But now you don't have to actually live in California and pay the high prices of living in California to get some of the benefits of California. Before this whole pandemic started, I've also thought about potentially living in California because California is so cool. I've always dreamed about spending time in California. Now I really don't have that same urge or interest to go and live in California, but for a big chunk of April and May, I'm going to be living in California. I'm going to be living in an Airbnb in SoCal, and I'll get to experience California without having to actually live in California and pay the high California taxes. Taxes were always something that people thought about in the back of their minds when they thought about where they were going to live. But now taxes have moved up to like front and center when people make a decision on where they want to live. Because not only do you want to live in a place where you're going to be able to be happy and have that nice quality of life, but people want more money in their pockets. We made that same decision here with the minority mindset companies. We are here in a suburb of Detroit, and before the pandemic, we were considering moving into the city of Detroit because you get to be in the city. Now, the downfall with being in the city of Detroit is the city of Detroit has its own city tax, which means that the business and the people that work in that business in the city of Detroit have to pay an additional tax for living and working in that city. Even if you don't live in the city, you have to pay that tax because you work in that city. Well, when the pandemic happened and we moved to this hybrid office and work from home life, we didn't have the same need to go and work in the city. Well, now that we don't have the same need to go and work in the city like we did before, it doesn't make sense for us to go into the city and then start paying these higher taxes, even though we don't have the same need to work in the office. So it's changed the way that people work. It changed the way that businesses look at work, and it's going to change the way, and it already has, the employees look at where they want to live. Because if you have a job that allows you to work from home and you already have a set salary, well, then now you have the ability to choose where you're going to live. Do you want to live in the city, or do you want to live in a suburb? Or maybe you want to live in an RV. A couple of my employees use this as an opportunity to now live on the go. They're now bought an RV and now they're living and traveling at the exact same time. So you can change and pick the way that you want to live your life, and this is becoming even more important when we look at cryptocurrency. Ever since the middle part of 2021, I started traveling a lot more. I started living out of Airbnbs in different places, but it's very hard for me to completely pick up and become a full nomad because I'm still kind of tied down. Like, I still have this office for minority mindset companies. I still have my real estate that I own. So I can't just completely leave because I still have, my business and my real estate that I own and manage that I can't just pick up and completely take away without having some sort of pain. But if you don't have the same sense of being tied down, well, now you have a lot more flexibility as to where you are, and cryptocurrency has changed this even more significantly. I've talked about a very good friend of mine who is an engineer making an engineer salary, who during this pandemic used it as an opportunity to move over to Guatemala, because now in Guatemala he can live like a king off of his engineer salary that he was making. And now he's buying land there, he's developing that, he's doing a lot of work with Airbnbs over there, and he does a lot of stuff with cryptocurrency out in Guatemala. And so he's able to do that while continuing to earn his engineering salary here in the United States. But now you're starting to see more and more people pick up and leave the country because, well, they can, especially if your money is just in cryptocurrency, because now you're not tied down by physical money. You're not tied down by gold in a vault. You're not tied down by having some physical real estate. If all you have is cryptocurrency, well, you're seeing people leave. We've seen people pick up and leave and go to tax havens. That way they can save money and taxes on their cryptocurrency. I personally know 2 people that over the last 12 months have left the United States to go to a different country because of taxes on cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not advocating for you to leave the country. I still think the United States of America is the best country in the world. But this is something we have to pay attention to, because this is the way that the trends are moving. People are choosing within the United States where to live, not just because of where their job is now, because so many people have the ability to work from home, but where it's going to give you the best quality of life. And one of the factors that people look at when it comes to the quality of life is, well, taxes, because that's going to impact how much money you get to keep. And you have to think that if we run into an issue where people have to decide, do I want to continue living in a very expensive country where taxes are going up, or do I move somewhere else into a more cost-effective country, especially if you still have the ability to earn dollars and live somewhere else? If you have the ability to earn dollars and live somewhere else and work, well, then what's stopping you from going to a lower tax or a place where you can get more bang for your buck with your dollars? Like if you move to a country that runs on pesos, or if you move to a country that runs on a different currency. Sure, you might not get the same safety, you might not get the same benefits that America has when you live in the United States, but you're starting to see a trend with people starting to leave the United States based off of taxes. If a city, state, or country wants to stay competitive in the global economy for the long term, you want to keep the producers in that area. Right? You want the entrepreneurs, you want the innovators, you want the workers there, because these are the people that are producing value. These are the people that are producing products. These are the people that are creating jobs. You want these people in your area because they're going to continue to produce more money. They're going to continue to produce more value. They're going to continue to produce more jobs. So you want the jobs, you want the value in your area. And if one of the things that is moving people out of that area is potentially taxes, then that's something you want to pay attention to, because as a country, you want your country to survive and thrive. And so we have to start paying attention to this as a broader economy, because we have to look at what trends are happening around the world. We want the smartest and brightest and hardest working people here working to produce more value, to create more innovation, to produce more jobs, to produce more value, because that's the way that we're going to be able to succeed and innovate as a country. And this is more important now than ever because of, well, everything that I talk about on our channel, because we're seeing how the United States growth is starting to slow, especially when you compare it to the rest of the world. Like we're seeing other countries in the world that are really starting to push innovation, that are really starting to push economic growth, while we're starting to see that kind of get hindered here in the United States. So just something that you want to keep aware of, because we're already starting to see the micro trends, right? We're starting to see people move from one locality to another locality in the United States. And you have to imagine that if this continues, where people are going to struggle with inflation, and people struggle with the cost of living, and people struggle being able to afford their life, and taxes are playing a big part of that, then people are going to want to leave. Either you're going to leave because of cost of living, or people are going to leave because, well, you are being taxed to death, and then you decide to move somewhere else. And now, especially with things like cryptocurrency, where all of your money can be stored in a USB drive rather than owning physical property, or rather than owning something where you have to be there, makes it easier for people to travel. So this is something something that you want to be aware of because this is a trend that we're seeing happen right now. And of course, if you want to stay on top of what's happening in the financial and business world like this, you can check out Market Briefs. Market Briefs is a free finance and business newsletter that I created. You can go to marketbriefs.com to learn more, but every day our team breaks down what's going on in the top finance and business world, and then we will email you a fun and entertaining and exciting newsletter that you can read in less than 5 minutes. It's an email that you're going to actually enjoy reading. I promise you that. So if you want to join Market Briefs for free, it's a completely free newsletter, you can go to marketbriefs.com, and I'll also link it for you down in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, here's a video on the changing world order that I think you'll love, and while you're at it, you can join Market Briefs for free by clicking that button below. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling. Right now, the world order is led by the United States and the United States dollar. Before the United States, it was the British Empire and the pound, and before the British Empire,